survey is a schematical collection of information or opinions from a group of people through questionnaires, interviews, or observations. It is used to gather data and insights about a particular topic, product, service, or population. Surveys can be quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods, depending on the nature of the research question and the type of data being collected. Quantitative survey typically involve numerical data and statistical analysis, while qualitative survey focus on open-ended questions and thematic analysis. Mixed method surveys combine both quantitative and qualitative methods to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the research topic. Surveys can also be used to measure satisfaction, gather opinions, assess knowledge, or evaluate the effectiveness of the product, service, or program. The data collected from a survey can be analyzed using the statistical software or qualitative analysis tools to identify patterns, trends, and insights. For example, a company might conduct a customer satisfaction survey to gather feedback on a new product. The survey might ask questions about the product's features, usability, and overall satisfaction. The data collected from the survey can then be analyzed to identify areas of strength and weaknesses, as well as any areas for improvement. Based on the findings, the company can make informed decisions about how to improve the product and better meet the needs of its customers. The most effective method for conducting research depends on various factors such as the target audience, the type of information being sought, and the resources available. So here's the types of surveys. The first one is online surveys. They are conducted through email, social media, or websites. They are convenient, cost-effective, and can reach a large audience. Second one is paper surveys. They are distributed in person or through the mail. They are useful for reaching people who don't have access to the internet. This method is still used in some cases. Third one is telephone surveys. These are conducted over the phone. They are useful for reaching people who are difficult to reach through other methods. This method is suitable for collecting time-sensitive information or when targeting older demographics who may be less tech-savvy. Telephone surveys can also be used for follow-up interviews. The last one is face-to-face surveys. These are conducted in person. They are useful for gathering detailed information and build rapport and respondents. This method is best for gathering detailed and nuanced information, particularly when dealing with sensitive or complex topics. Face-to-face surveys allows for more in-depth questioning and the ability to observe non-verbal cues.
Conducting a survey is done in 3 steps, and these are email, telephone, and personal interviews. The first one is email. It is an electronic way of sending written messages and information using computers or mobile devices. In surveys, email can be used to reach out to a larger number of people by sending them a questionnaire or a link to an online survey. The second one is telephone. It is a device used for making and receiving calls. In surveys, telephone interviews involve calling respondents and asking them a set of questions over the phone. It allows for direct communication between the interviewer and the respondent. And the last one is personal interview. It is a face-to-face conversation between the interviewer and the respondent. In surveys, personal interviews are conducted by meeting the respondents in person and asking them a series of questions. This method allows to detailed and in-depth responses, as well as the opportunity to observe non-verbal cues. The challenges and the limitations of a survey are seen according to criteria to be discussed by Mr. Berhal.
The challenges and limitations of a survey are seen according to the following criteria. The first one is appropriateness method. This refers to whether the chosen survey method is suitable for the research question. For example, if the goal is to explore in-depth insight, a survey might not be appropriate as other qualitative methods. Second is accuracy of one to observe. This involves ensuring the survey question accurately captures the information needed. Poorly designed or ambiguous question can lead to inaccurate data affecting the overall reliability of the survey. Example, in a survey about customer satisfaction with a product, a poorly designed question like, "Do you like the product?" might yield ambiguous response. A more accurate approach would involve specific questions about product features, performance, and overall experience. Generalizability of findings. Generalizability concerns the instincts to which survey findings can be applied to a broader population. If the surveyed sample is not representative, it may limit the ability to generalize the result to the larger population. Example, suppose a survey on smartphone usage is conducted solely among college students. The finding may lack generalizability if the sample does not represent a broader demographics such as different age group, occupation, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Administrative constraints. These are practical challenges related to conducting the survey such as time, budget, and resources. Limited resources can impact the scope and skills of the survey. Example, a research team planning a nationwide survey on healthcare access may face administrative constraints due to a limited budget. This constraint could impact the scope of the survey, potentially limiting the number of regions or participants. Include ethical and political difficulties. Surveys involve human participants and ethical consideration must be taken into account such as ensuring informed consent and protecting privacy. Political difficulties may arise if the survey topic is sensitive or controversial.
So now let's proceed to the second method, which is observation.
According to Buen Sosiso Dacanay, Manalo, and Sam Gabriel 2016, observation may take place in natural settings and involve the researcher taking lengthy and descriptive note of what is happening.
Example, classroom.
Observation is one of the key methods used to study and assess teaching to measure and evaluate the quality and effectiveness of teaching.
In simple words,
Observation is a way to gather data by watching people, events, or noting physical characteristics in their natural setting.
so we have limitations with observation includes
Change in people's behavior when they know they are being observed. A snapshot view of a whole situation. The researcher may miss something while they are watching and taking notes. And lastly, the researcher may make judgments, make value statements, or misunderstand what has been observed. We also have the opposite, which is the strength of observation. So first, it can offer a flavor for what is happening. Second, it can give an insight into a bigger picture. And lastly, it can demonstrate subgroups.
What is documentation? Documentation is written information that describe and explain a product, system, or service. It can take many different forms such as user manuals, technical guides, and online help resources. Documentation is typically used to provide information and instruction to user a product or service. External documentation. External documentation refers to the written materials that are created for user of software system. External documentation can be divided into several categories. Second, end user documentation. This type of documentation is intended for the end user of a software system, who are technically non-technical individuals, and the documentation includes user manuals, help files, and online tutorials that are explain how to use a software, troubleshoot common issues. The last one is enterprise user documentation. This type of documentation is similar to end user documentation, but is targeted at enterprise users who are responsible for managing and maintaining the software within their organization. Enterprise user documentation may include information on how to install and configure the software, how to perform maintenance tasks, and how to troubleshoot issues.
Hi, I am Jana May V. Ponce and I will be your reporter for the third method. The third method is experiment. Is when researchers create a condition by applying a treatment and seeing if it has any effect on characteristics of interest. And when conducting an experiment, there are what we call control groups. Control groups are the group that does not get the treatment or is not given special instructions to follow. We also have the treatment group. The treatment group is the group that gets the treatment or is given special instructions to follow. According to Murdoch, in this method, one will randomly select people and you need to split them into groups and they will now be your control group. So let's say, for example, we're doing an experiment about medication and you wanted to see if that medication was helping somebody. you would have your participants in two groups and you would get different treatments. One group would get the medication you're interested in finding out if it works. And then the other group would maybe get a different medication that they are going to take, but they don't know that it actually doesn't do anything. So that would tell us if there's any bias in the experiment towards somebody thinking they'd feel better just because they're taking the medication. So that's one example of how a control group would work. Thank you for listening. Next example will be discussed by Miss Beverly Kimbo.
Let's consider again the same example given. You want to know what proportion of your English class likes rock music? In this situation with rock music, your control group could be having a group that listens to a different genre of music. So that way you would be observing one group listening to rock and one group listening to something else, and you could actually compare. So the positive side of this is that the control group reduces bias, whereas in the survey and observational study, you didn't have a control group. It also allows you to determine if there's a cause and an effect happening. So it will really just give you a much deeper understanding of how people are behaving based on your treatment to them. Especially to the example medication, you can really determine if the medication is helping people or not.
The negative side of this method is it is time consuming because you're going up to different groups. It is a little bit harder to keep track of who's in which group. You always have to be concerned with ethics, meaning you are not going to persuade them to behave a certain way or treating them a way that is okay. In this situation, you can do any of these methods, but you have to be aware of the ways you can get bias, especially in a survey. You can get a lot of bias responses in an observational study if you don't have a control groups. So an experiment is the best way to get at least amount of bias.